Hello, welcome to Successful Summaries. Today I will be going over my top 5 biggest takeaways and ideas from the book The Brain by David Eagleman. The Brain is an easy-to-read neuroscience book that takes a neuroscience perspective to some of the big questions of life, like who am I, what is reality, who's in control, and how do I decide, among others. I found this book extremely fascinating and exciting to read, and I took a lot of things away. I encourage you to get the book and read it yourself. There's a link in the description, or if you like written format, I've written 3 summaries for this book on my site, successfulsummaries.com, and you can read them there. I'll put the link in the description. Let's get into the summary now. The first big takeaway I had was we are awareness. At the most basic level of who we are consciousness, an awareness of being. And this consciousness somehow arises from approximately 100 billion neurons making trillions of connections in your brain. This is a very important realization I had in the recent years, that all I am is just an awareness of being. I think this is super important because it can detach you from your pain, fear, trauma, negative emotions, etc., but not in a way so that you can repress them or avoid them easier, but in a way where you can face them and overcome them easier. I think this is because you realize fundamentally that your pain, fear, trauma, etc., isn't you. It's not you. You are just the observer, aware of the emotions. I recommend reading Eckhart Tolle if you want a deeper understanding on this type of subject. I recommend A New Earth or The Power of Now. I'll put the link in the description for those 2 books. Takeaway number 2 is the brain is an information processing machine. The brain is an information processing machine that takes raw information, photons, air compression waves, molecular concentrations, pressure, texture, temperature, etc., and turns this information into the machine code of your brain, electrochemical signals, that creates a story of reality, self, and scene. Humans don't have many original thoughts. All your thoughts are really just the replaying of the information you've been exposed to in your past. Humans get programmed with the repetition of information, and the more the information is repeated, the more the person believes in that information. So it is utmost importance that you surround yourself with the highest quality of information you have access to. This is why I love reading so much and why I started Successful Summaries. I wanted to be embedded in the highest quality of information in the world and share it with as many people as possible. I think the best example I can give of this takeaway is how babies learn language. Whatever language you were surrounded by most when you were a baby is the language you speak. And with enough repetition, meaning is derived from the mouth vibrations. Takeaway number 3 is much of our actions and beliefs are subconscious. The conscious you is the smallest part of the activity of the brain, so your actions, beliefs, biases are all driven by networks in your brain to which you have no conscious access. This is the fundamental breakthrough that Sigmund Freud had in psychology, which is now proven here with neuroscience. The notion that our actions aren't totally in our control raises more questions than answers, because it basically says that we are puppets and might as well give up on life. But I have found through various experiments I've done on myself that we are much more malleable than we think. We have the power to change our fundamental reality by a lot. We have the power to have a greater degree of control over ourselves and our reality. But also, it can take a lot of work to change, a lot more work than the average person wants to put forth. However, just knowing this fact is very powerful in my opinion. This fact shows the importance of rigorously questioning all your beliefs because they probably weren't yours in the first place. Takeaway number 4 is partake in long-term reward-seeking behaviors over short-term reward-seeking behaviors. Brains are wired to seek and maximize rewards, so the decisions we make are mostly in an attempt to maximize these rewards. But because rewards are dispersed on different timelines, people fall into short-term reward-seeking behaviors, which usually negatively impacts a person, versus long-term reward-seeking behaviors, which usually positively impacts a person. This may be the most important thing on this list, and I see this simple concept play out on many domains like relationships, money, health, and most importantly, fulfillment. An example I'll give you here is health. Imagine you only eat junk food. The act of eating junk food gives you a short-term high when you eat it for maybe a maximum of 5 minutes, but usually less. And then you go back to feeling like crap and you become a little bit more unconscious. If you decided to eat veggies and healthy food, it might suck for a month or so, might make your mouth taste bad for a small bit in the short term. Maybe it gives you bad short-term emotions that you don't like, but give it a year and you probably like the taste, you feel a natural high all the time, and you wouldn't dare go back to junk food because the long-term outcome is better for eating healthy food than the long-term outcome of eating junk food. Really think about this concept deeply because it is super important to fully understand. Takeaway number 5 is work to develop a high-quality social network to surround yourself by because you become who you hang out with the most. We are deeply social creatures because an enormous amount of brain circuitry has to do with other brains, like interpreting emotions, interpreting in-groups and out-groups, and interpreting where we stand on the social hierarchy. We become the 5 people we hang out with the most. This book literally talks about how we become them because we unconsciously mimic the people in our environment. This shows you that you should choose who you associate with very carefully, although we need friends and relationships to stay healthy. Thank you for listening to the summary of The Brain by David Eagleman. If you enjoyed this mind map, there's a link in the description where you can download it. If you want the book, there is a link in the description. If you enjoyed this summary, then you'll love the posts I write about books and various summaries on my site, successfulsummaries.com. I encourage you strongly to check it out. I break down all my notes from the book in depth there, so please check that out if you're interested. Thank you for listening and have a great day.